The cold light of the lab buzzed above, a pale blue glow washing over the metal walls. The air smelled of steel and disinfectant. Inside a silent underground prison, deep below the capital city of Orvian Prime, a new prisoner sat strapped to a medical chair. His name was Evan Cole, a human. The guards called him the Earthman. They said he came from a world long forgotten, a world the Empire had erased from all records. Today his blood test was supposed to confirm what everyone already believed, that he was nothing more than a weak, low-born creature from a primitive species. But something was about to go very, very wrong. Dr. Kira Solon adjusted her white coat and tried to ignore the nervous beating of her heart. She had tested hundreds of prisoners before, from aliens to synthetic beings. But never a human. Never someone like him. Just stay still, she said softly, attaching the thin red tube to his arm. It will only take a few minutes. Evan didn't move. His eyes stayed calm, distant, as if he was used to pain, used to cages, used to being treated like a specimen. The machine beside him hummed. Blue light scanned through the red liquid traveling up the tube. On the holographic display, lines of data began to appear. DNA sequences, energy levels, and something else. Something that made no sense. Dr. Kira Frouned. The readings were impossible. No, she whispered. That can't be right. The machine flickered, then stopped completely. The lights dimmed. For a moment, everything went quiet. Too quiet. Then the holographic display flashed gold instead of blue. Words appeared across it. Not in the Empire's language, but in something ancient. Something forbidden. Her heart raced. The words formed slowly, letter by letter. Release him. Dr. Kira stepped back, her hands shaking. What is this? She muttered. That's not a system command. The machine blinked again. The next words glowed brighter, almost like a voice was speaking through the light itself. Release him, Your Majesty. The lab filled with a deep hum, like the walls themselves were vibrating. The other scientists ran forward, shouting questions, checking the systems. But no one could find the source of the voice. Dr. Kira looked at Evan, the man who just sat there, calm, eyes half closed. He smiled slightly. I told you, he said quietly. You shouldn't have tested my blood. The guards burst into the room, their weapons raised. What's happening? One of them shouted. The system is malfunctioning. Another yelled. Shut it down. But the machine refused to stop. The golden light expanded into a full holographic projection. Not random data anymore, but a symbol. A royal crest. One that hadn't been seen in over 1,000 years. The crest of the first emperor. Everyone froze. That symbol was sacred, forbidden to even display without execution. And yet here it was, glowing above a human prisoner's blood. Dr. Kira's voice trembled. That crest, it can't be. The first emperor was destroyed. His bloodline ended. Evan slowly looked up, his eyes reflecting the golden light. Ended, he said softly. No, doctor. Hidden. The room fell silent. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. Outside the lab's reinforced window, alarms started to echo through the prison halls. The security drones hovered into place, their red eyes turning toward the lab door. Open the chamber, barked the guard captain. Now. But when the door sensors scanned Evan, the system spoke again in that same, commanding tone. No longer just words on a screen, but a voice that filled the room. Access denied. Royal clearance detected. Every guard froze. Royal clearance, one whispered. Dr. Kira stared at Evan, her mind spinning. Who are you? She breathed. He leaned forward slightly, the golden light painting his face. I'm the one your empire forgot, he said. The one your ancestors swore to destroy, but couldn't. Then, for the first time, real fear appeared in her eyes. The machines began to overload. Sparks flew. Data streamed across the walls like glowing rivers. The crest pulsed brighter and brighter, until the power cut out completely, leaving only the soft glow of Evan's pendant in the dark. Guards, someone shouted. But before they could move, the lab doors slid shut automatically, sealing everyone inside. The AI voice echoed one last time through the blackness. Subject identified, bloodline of the Emperor. Begin Royal Reclamation Protocol. The guards' weapons powered down. The security locks melted. Every camera turned off. And in the sudden silence, Dr. Kira realized the truth. The human in front of her wasn't a prisoner at all. He was something far greater. Something the Empire itself had been built to hide. Red warning lights flickered through the lab, painting everything in a pulsing glow. The air buzzed with energy as screens rebooted one by one, showing only a single message in golden letters. Reclamation Protocol, initiated. Dr. Kira's heart pounded as she backed away from the chair. Evan still sat there, calm, the glowing blue pendant on his chest now pulsing in time with the warning lights. "What's happening?" she whispered. "Why is the system obeying him?" The guards were shouting, trying to override the locks. But every command they gave was met with the same cold response. Access denied. Royal command in progress. Then the lab doors opened on their own. A slow hiss filled the air as the pressure equalized. From the hallway beyond, mechanical drones floated in, not prison drones this time, but something older. Ancient models, painted in gold and black, with symbols no one had seen in centuries. They surrounded Evan like soldiers greeting their king. Dr. Kira couldn't believe what she was seeing. These drones, they're from the First Empire era. They shouldn't even exist anymore. Evan slowly stood up, the red tube falling from his arm. His eyes were calm, but his voice carried quiet power. "They've been waiting," he said, "buried under your new empire's foundations. Waiting for my blood to wake them." He took a step forward. The drones moved in perfect formation, their lights scanning him. Then, as if recognizing their master, they projected a shimmering field of light, forming a holographic throne emblem behind him. The guards panicked. "Fire! Fire now!" But their rifles didn't respond. The triggers locked. The power drained from their suits. Every piece of technology in the room was bending to him. Dr. Kira raised her hands slightly, her voice trembling. "Evan, listen to me. You need to stop this. You don't know what the Reclamation Protocol will do." He turned toward her, his expression calm but distant. "I know exactly what it will do, Doctor. It will bring the truth back to this galaxy." The lights flickered again. For a moment, she saw something in his eyes, a reflection of an empire long gone, cities of gold, and armies kneeling beneath twin suns. Then suddenly the building shook. "Earthquake," one of the scientists yelled. "No," said Evan softly. "It's them waking up." Outside the lab, deep beneath the prison, ancient machinery roared to life. Massive gears turned after centuries of silence. Power conduits glowed with forgotten energy. Across the planet, old satellites began transmitting signals that hadn't been used since the fall of the First Empire. In control centers all over Orvian Prime, alarms erupted. Commanders shouted orders. The Imperial Council demanded explanations. But the data was clear. A royal signal had been reactivated. A royal heir had returned. Back in the lab, Dr. Kira was staring at the holographic data hovering in front of her. "It's rewriting the network," she said in disbelief. "The Reclamation Protocol is merging your DNA with every mainframe on the planet. It's recognizing you as the system's highest authority." Evan looked at his own hand, where faint golden light traced through his veins. "That's because this system was never theirs," he said. "It was built by my ancestors. The Empire just stole it." The guards backed away, fear replacing anger. One of them dropped his weapon and ran for the exit, only for the door to seal again with a loud metallic thud. "Containment required," said the AI's voice. "Royal presence detected. Security override in effect." Dr. Kira stepped closer. "Evan, if you really are who the system says, what will you do now?" He looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. Not anger, not arrogance, but something deeper. "I'll finish what my family started," he said softly. "And I'll make them remember what they tried to erase." Then the pendant on his chest shone brighter. The drones turned toward the ceiling, projecting another message. Activating Royal Beacon. Before anyone could react, a beam of light shot upward, straight through the roof of the prison, through miles of rock and metal, breaking into the open sky. Every satellite, every ship, and every outpost across the sector saw it. A golden column rising from a forgotten world. In the Imperial Palace, Thousands of light years away, the Emperor himself stood from his throne as alarms filled the air. "Who dares trigger the reclamation beacon?" he roared. A trembling officer answered. "The system identifies the source as human, sire." Silence. Then the Emperor's eyes widened in disbelief. "That's impossible. The humans were purged." Back in the lab, the glow faded. Evan looked weaker now, drained, but still standing. The drones hovered protectively around him. Dr. Kira took a hesitant step forward. "What happens next?" she asked. Evan looked up toward the ceiling, toward the sky where the golden beam still burned. "They'll come," he said quietly. "Those who still remember the oath." The oath? He turned to her, his voice low and steady. "To serve the true bloodline. To reclaim what was stolen." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. But it wasn't weather, it was the sound of engines. Ancient ships, hidden in orbit for centuries, were awakening, responding to his signal. Dr. Kira stared in awe. "You just declared war on the entire empire." Evan looked at her one last time, and for the first time, a hint of sadness crossed his face. "No," he said softly. "I just reminded them who their king really is." In the deep silence of space, the golden beacon burned like a wound in the darkness. Every ship, every station, and every planet under imperial rule could see it. The signal of the First Empire, the mark of the true bloodline, had returned. In the imperial palace, panic spread like fire. The grand hall, once filled with calm order, now roared with shouting officers and flickering holograms. The Emperor's eyes glowed with rage as he stared at the beam on the central display. "Who sent that signal?" he demanded. His voice echoed off marble walls. No one answered at first. Then an officer stepped forward, trembling. The signal came from Sector 9, deep beneath Orvian Prime's prison complex. The scanners detected a human signature, "Your Majesty." The Emperor froze. "A human?" "Yes, sire. But the system lists him as royal. The network is calling him Your Majesty." The Emperor slammed his fist against the control panel, shattering it. "That's impossible. The human bloodline was destroyed centuries ago." Another officer spoke quietly. "Unless one survived." The Emperor's jaw tightened. "Then we will erase him again. Send the Shadow Fleet. Every ship. Every hunter drone. Nothing leaves that planet alive." Far below on Orvian Prime, inside the shattered prison, alarms screamed as soldiers flooded the corridors. The once silent halls now echoed with boots, gunfire, and the sound of orders barked through comms. Dr. Kira stood beside Evan, who was watching the monitors calmly. The golden light around his pendant had faded to a faint pulse. "They're coming," she said, her voice shaking. "Hundreds of them." "I know," he replied. "The Empire never changes. They always answer fear with fire." "What will you do?" He looked at the hovering drones around him. The ancient guardians from the First Empire, still loyal, still waiting. "I'll remind them that fire can be fought with light." Outside, thunder shook the ground. Dropships were landing. Soldiers poured out, their armor shining black under the storm clouds. Evan turned toward Dr. Kira. "You need to leave, Doctor. When they see you with me, they'll call you a traitor." She hesitated. "If what you said is true, if you really are part of the royal bloodline, then the Empire has lied to all of us. I'm not leaving." Evan smiled faintly. "You have courage, Kira Solon. My ancestors would have liked you." Before she could answer, the lab's reinforced doors exploded inward. A shockwave of heat and smoke filled the room. Soldiers stormed in, their weapons glowing red. "By order of the Emperor, stand down," shouted their commander. Evan didn't move. "Your Emperor has no order over me." The commander's visor flashed red. "Then you die where you stand." He fired. The blast hit Evan square in the chest, but instead of burning through him, the energy dissolved into the air, scattering into golden sparks. The drones reacted instantly, forming a shield of light around him. "Impossible," the commander shouted. Evan stepped forward slowly, each step shaking the floor. His eyes glowed faintly now, golden like the old crest. "You can't kill what your empire was built to protect," he said. The soldiers opened fire. The room became a storm of light and noise. Lasers cutting through smoke, drones weaving golden shields, and the echo of the ancient symbol glowing across every surface. When the smoke cleared, the soldiers were on their knees, their weapons melted. The commander dropped his rifle, his breathing heavy. Evan didn't raise his voice, but his words filled the silence. "Tell your emperor," he said. "The bloodline has awakened." Back in orbit, aboard the lead Shadow Fleet ship, the Imperial Admiral watched in disbelief as his forces failed to contain a single man. The feeds showed drones fighting back, using technology older and stronger than anything the Empire possessed. "Sir, we've never seen systems like these," the technician reported. "They're rewriting our codes. We're losing control of the entire grid." "Cut the connection," the Admiral shouted. But it was too late. The main screen flickered, and a face appeared. Evan. His expression was calm, but his voice carried through every channel of the fleet. "You think you own this galaxy," he said. "But you built your empire on the ashes of mine. The systems you use, the technology you command, it was all made by my ancestors. You've been living in a house built by ghosts." The Admiral swallowed hard. "Who are you?" Evan's eyes glowed brighter. "I am what your emperor fears most, a truth he cannot kill." The feed cut out. And then every ship in the fleet received the same signal. A golden symbol flashing on their control panels. The crest of the first emperor. For the first time in 500 years, the system recognized a new ruler. Down on Orvian Prime, Dr. Kira looked out through the shattered window. Above the storm clouds, she could see flashes of light, not from explosions, but from something awakening in orbit. Old ships. Ancient, golden, and massive. The forgotten royal fleet was rising from the void. Evan looked up at them with quiet determination. "The Empire's response," he said softly, "was expected." Dr. Kira turned to him. "And now?" He smiled, eyes still on the sky. "Now they'll remember why they called us gods." The storm over Orvian Prime had turned golden. Lightning flashed across the clouds, but it wasn't thunder anymore. It was the sound of engines. Engines that hadn't roared in 5 centuries. The ghost fleet had awakened. High above the planet, dark shapes drifted out from behind the moons. Ancient starships, colossal and silent, covered in dust and battle scars. Their hulls glowed with faint gold light, their weapons older than any technology the Empire now used. But every system, every weapon, every engine, was alive again. And they were answering one signal. Evan Coles. Down in the ruins of the prison, Dr. Kira and Evan stood at the shattered window, watching the sky burn with golden light. Kira could barely speak. "Are those your ships?" "They were my ancestors," Evan said softly. "Built when humanity still ruled the stars." "But how? They should have decayed centuries ago." "They never died," he said. "They were only waiting, locked behind codes written in royal blood. When the Reclamation Protocol activated, it called them home." The ground trembled as the first of the Ghost Fleet's ships broke through the clouds. The massive cruiser Orion's Wrath hovered above the prison, its shadow swallowing the entire complex. Thousands of golden drones swarmed around it like fireflies. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. In orbit, the Imperial fleet scrambled to form a defense line. Admiral Vorn watched from his command deck, his jaw tight, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Those ships, they're responding to his signal," his officer shouted. "We've tried everything to jam it, but our systems are being overridden." "Fire everything," Vorn roared. "I don't care if it's ancient tech, destroy them." The Imperial ships launched hundreds of plasma torpedoes into the void. The golden cruisers didn't move. They didn't even raise shields. The missiles hit, and vanished. A massive wave of golden energy rippled through space, swallowing every attack and converting it into pure light. It was not defense, it was absorption. Then the Ghost Fleet fired back. No noise. No flash. Just light. Beams of golden energy crossed the darkness, slicing through the Imperial Armada like paper. Ships shattered silently, their wreckage glowing as if they were being erased from history itself. Within minutes, half the Empire's fleet was gone. Back on the surface, Kira covered her mouth as explosions painted the sky. "They're losing," she whispered. Evan's eyes reflected the burning horizon. "The Ghost Fleet doesn't fight to win," he said quietly. "It fights to restore." Kira looked at him. "What do you mean?" They don't destroy enemies. They erase lies. Suddenly, one of the smaller golden ships descended through the storm, landing in the prison courtyard. Its ramp opened with a deep hum, revealing soldiers in ancient armor, glowing gold and black, their faces hidden by mirrored helmets. Kira took a step back. Who are they? Evan's expression softened. My ancestors' guard. The Wardens of Orion. They've been asleep for ages. The soldiers knelt before him, their leader speaking in an old, resonant voice. My liege. We heard the call. The throne awaits. Kira's breath caught. My liege. Evan looked at the kneeling soldiers, and for a moment, the weight of everything hit him. Stand, he said. The throne is gone. The people have forgotten. The warden leader raised his head. Then we shall remind them. Meanwhile, in the imperial palace, the emperor watched in disbelief as reports flooded in. Entire fleets gone, communication networks failing, power grids turning gold with alien energy. What is this madness? He shouted. A hologram flickered to life, a spy feed from Orvian Prime. It showed Evan standing before the golden soldiers, the ghost fleet glowing above. The emperor's hands trembled. No. It can't be him. The line was ended. We made sure. An old voice interrupted him. The AI advisor that had served his family for generations. Correction, it said calmly. The bloodline was hidden, not ended. Your empire has served in imitation for 500 years. The emperor turned pale. You dare. But before he could finish, the AI's eyes turned gold. The real emperor has returned. The palace lights flickered out. Back on Orvian Prime, the ghost fleet hovered in formation, their energy humming in the air like the sound of 1,000 heartbeats. The sky itself seemed alive with light. Evan turned to Kira. When I was captured, I thought I was the last human. I thought my world was gone. But now I see, humanity never died. It was buried, waiting for the truth to wake it up. Kira smiled faintly, despite the fear around them. So what happens now, Your Majesty? He looked at her, half smiling. Now we take back what was stolen. Above them, the ghost fleet shifted, forming a massive circle of light. The ancient royal seal, burning across the clouds for the entire world to see. Every communication channel, every hologram, every screen in the empire suddenly displayed the same message. The true bloodline has returned. Prepare for the great reclamation. The empire trembled. The people began to whisper. And across 1,000 worlds, the forgotten name of the first emperor was spoken again. Not in fear, but in hope. The war began before sunrise. Every city under imperial control woke to the same broadcast. Golden light cutting through the night. And a calm voice that spoke through every screen, every device, every ship. The empire you serve was built on lies. The throne you fear belongs to another. The bloodline has returned. Across the galaxy, the symbol of the first emperor burned in the sky. Some fell to their knees in awe. Others reached for their weapons. And on Orvian Prime, the ghost fleet prepared for war. Evan stood on the bridge of the flagship Orion's Wrath, the largest vessel of the First Empire. The command deck shimmered with golden light. Every surface, every console, responded to his presence like a living being. Dr. Kira stood beside him, wearing a new coat, part scientist, part strategist now. She looked out at the hundreds of glowing ships forming up behind them. You really mean to face the Empire head-on? Evan nodded. They've spent centuries rewriting history, killing anyone who spoke the truth. They won't stop until they destroy me. Or I destroy their throne. But the Emperor controls billions. Entire fleets. You can't. He turned to her, his eyes calm. I'm not fighting for control, Kira. I'm fighting for memory. If I fall, at least the truth will live again. In orbit above the capital world Vadrian, the Imperial fleet assembled, black and silver ships stretching across the stars like a wall. At the center stood the Emperor's personal battleship, the Eternal Crown, armed with the most powerful weapon in the known galaxy. Project Seraph, a secret army grown from forbidden genetics. They were not men. They were clones. Copies of one man. Evan Cole. The Emperor stood before a long line of white-armored soldiers, each one identical, same face, same voice, same cold eyes. They call him a king, the Emperor said. But he is only a mistake. A survivor of an age best forgotten. You were made from his blood, perfected, loyal, unbreakable. You are my army. You will end your origin. The clones answered in perfect unison, their voices metallic and empty. By your command, Emperor. The Emperor smiled. Then begin. Back aboard Orion's Wrath, alarms echoed across the bridge. Kira looked up at the tactical screen. They're sending something strange. The energy readings match you. Evan narrowed his eyes. Of course they would. The enemy fleet appeared on the horizon, dark ships gliding forward in formation, and leading them thousands of identical faces staring out from behind helmets. Kira gasped. They cloned you. Evan didn't answer. He just watched them approach. They turned my blood into a weapon, he said quietly. Now I'll remind them what royal blood can really do. The fleet fired first. Blue plasma filled space like a storm. The Ghost Fleet's golden shields rippled, absorbing the hits. Then Evan raised his hand, and the entire formation of golden ships moved as one. Powered not by commands, but by will. They struck back. The void exploded with light, blue against gold, new against old. The clones fought fiercely, moving with machine precision. But the Ghost Fleet's ships fought like living things, anticipating every move. On the Emperor's flagship, officers shouted over the chaos. Our systems are breaking down. The ancient code is rewriting our command grid. The Emperor clenched his fists. Then purge it. Burn everything that listens to him. But it was already too late. The Ghost Fleet's code, the reclamation signal, had spread through every channel, reaching deep into the Empire's network. Even some of the clone soldiers began to hesitate, their programming flickering. On the battlefield, one of the clones broke formation. His visor shattered, revealing Evan's own face beneath it, but younger, confused, and afraid. He fell to his knees before Evan's holographic projection. What am I? Evan's expression softened. You're what they made you to be. But you don't have to stay that way. I was made to kill you. Then choose not to. The clone hesitated, then turned his weapon on the Imperial soldiers instead. That single act spread like fire. One by one, more clones broke rank, fighting against their creators. The Empire's perfect army was turning on itself. Kira watched from the bridge amazed. You changed them. With just words. Evan smiled faintly. No. With choice. Something the Empire took from them long ago. But the Emperor wasn't done. He activated the crown core, the central weapon of his ship. A beam of blue light burst from the capital world, slicing through space. It tore through 3 golden cruisers in seconds. The Emperor's face appeared across every screen in the fleet. Bloodline or not, you are nothing before me, he growled. Your empire is dust. Your ancestors are dead. You are alone. Evan stared at the transmission, the golden glow rising in his veins once more. You should never have touched my blood, he said quietly. He raised his hand. Every Ghost Fleet ship turned its cannons toward the Eternal Crown. Thousands of golden beams converged into one, forming a sun of light in the darkness of space. When it fired, the stars themselves seemed to vanish. The Eternal Crown vanished in the explosion, the Emperor's ship engulfed in gold. Silence filled the void. The war wasn't over, but the Empire's heart had been struck. Kira looked at Evan, who stood quietly, his expression unreadable. You did it, she whispered. He shook his head slowly. No. The war for the throne has only begun. He's not dead yet. Kira frowned. How do you know? Evan looked toward the burning world below. Because I can still feel him. The battlefield was silent now. Golden dust drifted where ships once clashed. The Ghost Fleet hung above the burning planet. Their lights dim but steady, victorious, yet waiting. On the bridge of Orion's Wrath, Evan stood alone, staring into the endless dark. Dr. Kira approached quietly, her voice low. You destroyed his fleet. The war should be over. Evan didn't answer at first. His eyes were distant, as if he was listening to something far away. Finally he spoke. He's still alive. Kira frowned. The Emperor? That's impossible. The Eternal Crown was vaporized. Evan turned slowly, the golden glow faint beneath his skin. You can't destroy something that was never fully alive. Before Kira could ask what he meant, the main screen flickered. Static. Then a voice. A voice they both knew. You should have stayed forgotten. The Emperor's image appeared, half-burned, half-machine, his face twisted and scarred. Behind him, molten metal dripped down the walls of what was left of the eternal crown. You think you've won? He hissed. Your blood is ancient, yes, but mine was made from yours. I am the evolution of your line. Evan's expression stayed calm. You're no evolution. You're a counterfeit. The Emperor smiled, his metal jaw grinding. We'll see. The transmission cut, and every sensor in the Ghost Fleet screamed. A massive energy surge came from the burning ship below. The Emperor's flagship, broke and dying, was transforming. Within minutes, the Eternal Crown rose from the atmosphere, surrounded by swirling blue fire. Its broken hull twisted and reformed, metal rebuilding itself into something darker, sharper. The new ship was alive, a hybrid of machine and royal blood. Kira's eyes widened. He's merged himself with the ship. He's fused with it. Evan nodded grimly. He's turned himself into the throne engine, the final weapon of the old war. And it obeys him? No, Evan said quietly. It is him. The Eternal Crown's weapons charged again, blue light gathering along its spine. But this time the beam didn't aim for ships, it aimed for the planet below. He's targeting Orvian Prime, Kira gasped. Billions of lives. Evan stepped forward. Then it ends now. He turned toward the Ghost Fleet. All ships, focus energy into the Wrath's core. Route command to me. The ship AI responded in a deep, calm tone. Warning. Overload may result in total destruction. Evan smiled faintly. It usually does. Golden light spread through the flagship as he walked toward the center platform, the Royal Control Nexus. The air hummed. The floor glowed. The ship began to listen to him completely. Kira reached out. Evan, you won't survive this. He turned, eyes soft. I know. But if I don't, no one will. Outside, the two ships faced each other. One golden, one blue, each pulsing like twin stars. The Emperor's voice filled the void. You cannot stop progress, boy. The bloodline was weak. I made it eternal. Evan replied, his voice echoing through every comm, every channel, every heartbeat in the fleet. You made it hollow. I'll bring it back to life. The two titans fired at the same time. Blue and gold collided in the dark, light-consuming light. Space itself bent under the force. Entire asteroids vaporized. Kira shielded her eyes as alarms screamed. Energy levels off the charts. The wrath can't hold. Evan stood in the heart of the storm, golden fire wrapping around him. He reached out, and the ship responded. His veins glowed like molten light as he merged with the Ghost Fleet's core. In that moment, every ship, every drone, every fragment of the old empire felt him that he was no longer just Evan Cole. He was the Emperor reborn. Inside the throne engine, the Emperor roared. You think you can take what's mine? Evan's voice answered, calm but powerful. It was never yours. The golden energy surged, flooding through the Emperor's systems. The throne engine screamed as light poured through its circuits, tearing apart the corruption within. For the first time, the Emperor sounded afraid. You'll destroy us both. Evan smiled faintly. That's the point. A blinding flash tore through the sky. Gold consuming blue. Creation swallowing corruption. Silence. The storm ended. The blue light was gone. Only gold remained, soft, warm, and still. When the smoke cleared, the Eternal Crown was gone. So was the Orion's wrath. Kira stood on the observation deck of a smaller ship, tears in her eyes. The stars around her glowed faintly gold. He did it, she whispered. He ended it. Then through the silence, the fleet's AI spoke. Royal signature detected. A beam of golden light appeared ahead, and slowly, a figure emerged from it. Evan. Alive but changed. His eyes now glowed brighter than before, his body surrounded by faint energy. Kira gasped. Evan. He smiled gently. Not exactly. The throne doesn't die. It changes form. She stepped closer. You merged with the fleet. He nodded. And with the old code. The Ghost Fleet will never fade again. Neither will humanity's memory. He looked out toward the stars, his voice quiet but strong. The Empire is gone. But the people remain. That's what matters. The ghost fleet slowly drifted into formation, like an army of light watching over a newborn world. Kira whispered, "So what happens now?" Evan turned to her, a faint, weary smile on his face. "Now the galaxy begins again." The stars were quiet again. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was at peace. The war was over. The Empire was gone. And from its ashes, a new light began to rise. The ghost fleet floated silently above the reborn world of Orvian Prime. Below, vast cities shimmered, their towers rebuilt, their people walking freely under the sun. The air was clear, the oceans alive again. On the highest platform of the rebuilt command tower, Dr. Kira stood looking out at the horizon. Her face was tired, but her eyes were bright with hope. Beside her, a figure appeared, not walking, but materializing out of golden light. It was Evan, though he looked different now. His body shimmered faintly, half human, half energy. The mark of the ancient bloodline glowed softly on his hand. "You've been gone for weeks," Kira said quietly. Evan smiled. "Time feels different now. The fleet doesn't measure days like humans do." She turned to face him. "And yet you came back." "I promised," he said simply. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sunrise. Below them, crowds gathered around the great plaza, where holographic banners rippled, not of the old empire, but something new, a symbol of unity. Two circles intertwined, one golden, one blue. "The people voted," Kira said. "They chose a council, scientists, workers, soldiers. No more throne." Evan nodded slowly. "Good. The throne was never meant for one person. It was meant to guide, not rule." Kira glanced at him. "So what will you do now?" Evan's expression turned distant. "There are still ghosts out there. Old machines from the war. Colonies forgotten by the Empire. I'll find them. Bring them home." She smiled faintly. "You sound like a myth already." He looked back at her, his eyes soft. "Maybe myths are just memories waiting to be remembered." That night, the galaxy changed again. Evan stood aboard the Ghost Fleet Command, gazing at a holographic map of the known worlds. Millions of faint blue dots filled the air, colonies once silenced by the Empire's grip. He raised his hand, and golden light spread through the display. One by one, the dots turned gold. Each one represented a signal, a reawakening. The Ghost Fleet, once a weapon, was now a messenger. A voice spoke through the fleet systems, calm, deep, almost human. "Order received, Captain. Initiating Reclamation Protocol. Hope." Evan smiled faintly. "No more war. Only light." The fleet responded with a low hum, engines glowing softly as they prepared to jump. But before they left, he opened a comm channel, one last message to the people below. Across Orvian Prime, screens flickered on. Citizens stopped what they were doing as a familiar voice filled the air. "This is Evan Cole. The war is over. You've all lost something, families, homes, faith. But you've gained something greater, freedom. The old empire taught us to fear power, to obey it. But true strength is not control, it's choice. Today you choose your own future. You build it with your hands, not under a crown, but under the sky. I will be watching, not as your king, but as your witness. Humanity was never meant to serve. It was meant to rise. Remember who you are." The message ended, but the silence that followed was filled with something new. Not fear, not sorrow, but hope. Kira stood in the plaza as the message faded. The crowd around her was silent for a moment. Then someone began to clap. Another joined. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Soon, the entire city roared with applause. She looked up at the night sky. Dozens of golden trails streaked across the stars. The Ghost Fleet leaving orbit, heading for the unknown. For a moment, she thought she saw him. Evan, standing among them, watching over everything. She whispered softly, "Goodbye, Evan." But somewhere deep inside, she knew he could still hear her. Far beyond Orvian Prime, the Ghost Fleet drifted through the dark void. Their golden lights cut through space like falling suns. Inside the command ship, Evan stood in quiet reflection. Around him, holograms of ancient ruins flickered, lost outposts, forgotten worlds, old wars. Each time he reached out, a light flared to life. A signal answered back. Civilizations once thought dead began to stir. And in every signal he saw the same thing, life, rebuilding itself. He smiled softly. The dawn always returns. Years later, storytellers across the stars would whisper tales of the human king who never sat on his throne. Some said he became part of the stars. Others said he still walked among the people, unseen. But every world that rose again carried his mark, the intertwined circles of gold and blue. And wherever that mark appeared, people remembered one thing, that even in the darkest prison, even in the blood of enemies and kings, humanity carried something no empire could ever command. The will to rise again.